Award winner.
180 were given first aid treatment inside Rich Stadium, some for drug overdoses, some for drinking too much. 2 simply stomped too hard and suffered foot injuries. 14. Orchard Park police towed away 183 cars. Hamburg police towed another 75 cars. And a short while ago in the state police office lobby in Orchard Park, 30 or so were trying to figure out how to get home. And an estimated 50 to 100 others say they are lost. Before it ended, the Stones played more than 25 songs and actually came out for an encore. All that fuss in Orchard Park today was because of one man, Mick Jagger. Jagger stayed at the Marriott Inn while in town. News Center 2's Stacy Parakos caught up with the superstar exclusively there just before he left for the stadium. And she asked him if he had any message for the people of Buffalo.
Got any message for the people of Buffalo?
Buffalo?
Buffalo.
Wonderful. What a wonderful town.
Love you, bro.
Love you, brother.
Things seemed to have quieted down at the Marriott considerably after the Rolling Stone entourage was safely on their way, but hotel manager Paul Carolyn said having the world's most famous rock group as overnight guests was exciting, but not really any trouble.
It was a 24-hour straight around-the-clock business venture. The Stones had a good time, the hotel had a good time, and it was a lot of fun, I think, for everyone.
Carolyn added that most of the people didn't even know the Stones were in the hotel.
We had a honeymoon couple check in to a suite on the same floor. This had been made many months before and was prepaid, and they spent their honeymoon night in the suite next to Mick Jagger's, and I'm sure they'll be telling their friends about it for years to come. They didn't know about it until afterwards, but now they're up there with another bottle of champagne, and I think they may be going to the concert, too.
Authorities say a Buffalo woman and her son tried to make a lot of money off the concert by allegedly selling counterfeit tickets from their home. 47-year-old Elizabeth Karenak and her son John face felony and misdemeanor charges. Well, what was expected to be one of the major problems of today's Stones concert, traffic and parking, fortunately was not. Traffic moved surprisingly smoothly despite thousands of cars pouring into the area. Speaking of pouring, at around noon when traffic was the heaviest, it began raining. But no spirits were dampened in this crowd.
I'm here at the Rolling Stones concert.
You're sitting out in the rain. I don't mean to surprise you with that.
Oh, no.
The Stones came to Buffalo from Philadelphia, where they staged 2 concerts. How do the crowds compare to Philly? One of those hired by the Stones for crowd control says Buffalo seemed much better behaved. Well, tonight at Buffalo International, plane had nose gear malfunction and had to make a semi-belly landing. No one was hurt when the plane came down, but there were some nervous moments. A man from
Stadium in Orchard Park today for the Rolling Stones concert. During the concert, about 100 people were taken to nearby hospitals to be treated for drug overdoses. Tonight, the headaches are just beginning for both fans and officials. 75,000 people leave lots of garbage. Crews now face the monumental task of cleaning it all up. Traffic is still backed up from fans leaving the concert, but probably the biggest headaches are for hundreds of people who are still trying to locate their cars that were towed away.
We were told we could park there, and we come out of the concert, our cars are gone. Not all the cars were gone, just some of them, and we don't have enough money to pay to get our cars out. Which
I was driving down the road, and they pulled us right over there to the right-hand side to park. And we parked there, and we come back out after the concert, our car was gone.
Despite all the problems, Nona Barbie reports the concert was a roaring success.
75,000 well-behaved fans trekked in for the show Build the Big One. Some came from as far away as Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Toronto, Ontario to see the Rolling Stones. There were no uniformed police inside Rich Stadium and no serious hassles. Thanks to the T-shirt brigade, 400 young security guards, or as they describe themselves, mediators trying to keep the peace. After 6 hours of patiently waiting in the rain, the sun came out right on cue, and these rock and rollers finally got what they paid for. While other rock bands have disintegrated or simply faded into oblivion, the Rolling Stones have not only survived, they've prospered with hit after hit. They've been called the very best of rock and roll, spanning 2 decades with their feet firmly planted in a third. And like rock and roll, the Stones are as potent as ever, riding a crest of popularity that shows no signs of dying out. Nona Barbie, Channel 7 Eyewitness News Tonight.
big success today. Orchard Park's rich stadium was packed and everyone had a good time. That is until the concert ended. That's when hundreds of fans poured into the streets only to find that their cars had been towed away at a cost to them of $45 for ticketing and towing. Orchard Park and Hamburg police towed about 200 illegally parked cars during the day-long concert, leaving fans understandably upset.
I think it's terrible. They didn't give me any warning. They didn't have any signs up. I came back, my car's gone.
A lot of people were surprised. Most of the cars weren't even taken.
First time in town.
Well, I parked on the side of the road. There was no signs, or they didn't have any warning or anything, so come out, no car.
They just said that they couldn't take my check, that's all. I don't have any money. I'm from Pittsburgh, so that's all. I understand their position, but there's nothing I can do, nothing they can do. It's just a standoff.
Some of the concert goers without cars got rides from police to the 3 locations where autos had been towed. Those not so lucky had to walk. The concert had an effect that lasted for hours afterward. Traffic jams like the one at the Peace Bridge, where thousands of Canadian rock fans were trying to get home. For the story about the concert itself, Sandy White reports.
Mix Mick Jagger and 75,000 rock fans, and under sunny skies, you've got a rock and roll experience. The rock group led by Mick Jagger performed 25-song concerts before sellout crowds in Philadelphia this weekend, and today was no different. The last Stones tour was in 1978, and these hungry fans were out to get some satisfaction.
What is it about Mick Jagger and the Stones that brings you here?
His beautiful body.
It's his body.
And his voice.
What about his music? It's excellent.
Number 1.
Their beat and their vitality. It's tremendous, and also the lyrics. A lot of messages in there that you have to listen to.
The British rock group is the history and the present all wrapped into one. To some, the last vestige of rock and roll.
The greatest rock and roll band. They've done like everything from A to Z since 1964. There's nothing really left for them to do. They've proven it to everybody, and I saw them in Philadelphia, and they were just absolutely out of this world.
The Stones attracted up to 30,000 fans from Canada. Today, the Erie County Sheriff's Department was ready. 150 sheriffs were on duty to handle traffic and keep an eye on lawbreakers.
Does anyone need tickets? Sir, tickets for you.
Scalpers were everywhere today. Some tickets were cheap. Others were selling as high as $140.
How much?
25. 25. Best you can do. They're selling them for 10 up there.
I know, but I like a sap, I bought it for more, so I have to make a little profit on this.
Gate security at Rich Stadium was tight in the wake of a police crackdown on counterfeit ticket operations. The Erie County Sheriff's Department is happy to report only 3 arrests today, and Erie County Sheriff Braun says that's tremendous. Sandy White, News 4 Update.
Well, the fans did not come by the hundreds to meet the Bills when they returned to Buffalo tonight, but the few that were on hand were
of people being treated for drug or alcohol abuses, minor cuts and bruises. More than 100 illegally parked cars were towed away. News Center 2's Susan Candiotti was at that Stones concert. Here's her account of it.
Exciting. Jagger's terrific.
They gave them what they wanted and more. Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones wrapped 75,000 fans from the U.S. and Canada around their finger. And under their thumb, the opening song and one of the Stones' biggest hits. The 38-year-old Jagger still packs incredible energy into his $25 million act, keeping this crowd captivated for nearly 2.5 hours, 25 songs, 2 encores, which he seldom does.
Of course, probably one of the most incredible things about being at a Stones concert are the fans. They are something else.
The way Mick Jagger looks, you know, no one can look like that.
Believe it or not, Detroit fan Dean Hayworth is following the Stones through their 21-city tour.
He pointed to you.
Yeah, he pointed to me and he said, Detroit. And he goes,
had to, you know.
Even for warm-up acts like George Thorogood and the Destroyers, opening for Jagger Stones is a real thrill.
Well, what do you think it was like? A hillbilly like me coming from a place like Delaware, it was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Mick Jagger returns the compliment to his fans with a little gift. The concert did have a few problems. Jagger's $100,000 elaborate entrance on a crane through these stage-high screens was scrubbed because of high winds that ripped the sheets apart. Then there was one lucky fan who scrambled to safety after taking a chance with his life. But this is what fans will remember the most. Susan Candiotti, News Center 2, Rich Stadium.
Everyone at the top of Eyewitness News at noon. Seeing Rich Stadium this noon hour, you'd never know. 75,000 screaming fans packed the place for a Rolling Stones concert less than 24 hours ago. Stadium officials tell Eyewitness News they are very happy with the whole event. There wasn't any damage. The new AstroTurf survived with hardly a cigarette burn, and the garbage was little more than what you'd find after a sellout Bills game. But for some time last night, the area around the stadium was littered with debris from the throng.
When he gets a chance, he can talk. Listen.
The Rolling Stones have dominated rock and roll for close to 2 decades. The outrageous Mick Jagger is a household name. But Stones bass player Bill Wyman is little known outside the world of music. A serious man with diverse interests, he has shunned the limelight, preferring to play the role of the silent Stone.
That's because nobody ever asked me anything. It's true.
Is that true?
It's true. No, they never asked questions. You had 5, Mick, Keith, Charlie, Brian, or whoever it was, Mick Taylor, and me. And Charlie and me would be at the end of the conference table in New York, and they'd do all the flashing things, and the questions going, it was, Mick, how about this? Mick, how about that? Mick, how about... And Mick would say, ask somebody else a question. So they'd say, Keith, how about that? And then they'd answer, Mick, and so ask another, Brian, you know, and it just... Me and Charlie used to sit up the side having a beer. Charlie would fall asleep. No, true. I don't think of being part of the Rolling Stones. It doesn't cross my mind that much, you know. It's impressed upon me by the media and people around, but I don't really think of being a pop star, you know, or a Rolling Stone or something. I don't. I just try to live a normal life. I have nobody with me. I have no roadies at home. I have no gophers, you know, no guys that sit around the house and turn the stereo on for me and all that, like most rock stars have an entourage of people that deal with everything they want. Get me a beer, do this. I have nobody like that. I just live like an ordinary person.
After many successes with the Stones, Bill Wyman now has his own hit record.
Kids keep buying more of the records and keep coming to more of the concerts, so we keep going. We're obviously still doing the right thing. You know, if we weren't, then we wouldn't be there, and it'd be time to hang up the rock and roll shoes.
Irma Bombeck.
Back into shape for the Bills, saying the mess was just like sweeping up after football fans. Officials say the tarp back into shape for the Bills, saying the mess was just like sweeping up after football fans. Officials say the tarp they laid down to protect the brand new turf did the job, adding they were hard-pressed to find even the slightest cigarette burns. Well, the 75,000 fans that jam-packed Rich Stadium not only behaved themselves, they also saw one exciting show, and so did News Center 2's Susan Candiotti.
Exciting! Mick Jagger's terrific.
They gave them what they wanted and more. Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones wrapped 75,000 fans from the U.S. and Canada around their finger. And under their thumb, the opening song and one of the Stones' biggest hits. The 38-year-old Jagger still packs incredible energy into his $25 million act, keeping this crowd captivated for nearly 2.5 hours, 25 songs, 2 encores, which he seldom does.
Of course, probably one of the most incredible things about being at a Stones concert are the fans. They are something else.
The way Mick Jagger looks, you know, no one can look like that.
Believe it or not, Detroit fan Dean Hayworth is following the Stones through their 21-city tour.
He pointed to you.
Yeah, he pointed to me and he said Detroit, and he goes like that to me, you know.
Even for warm-up acts like George Thorogood and the Destroyers, opening for Jagger's Stones is a real thrill.
Well, what do you think it was like? A hillbilly like me coming from a place like Delaware, it was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Mick Jagger returns the compliment to his fans with a little gift. The concert did have a few problems. Jagger's $100,000 elaborate entrance on a crane through these stage-high screens was scrubbed because of high winds that ripped the sheets apart. Then there was one lucky fan who scrambled to safety after taking a chance with his life. But this is what fans will remember the most. Susan Candiotti, News Center 2, Rich Stadium.
Well, now, if you didn't get to see the Stones, and especially Mick Jagger up that close, let's talk to somebody who did, because Susan is up in the News Center right now. And Susan, the Stones are an institution of rock. The Stones back on stage like an era reborn. But recently, Mick Jagger said himself that he can't get around on stage like he used to. What's your assessment? The Stones, are they worth it?
I couldn't see any evidence that he can't get around anymore. They sure were worth it to me anyway. Of course, I had a little better vantage point than maybe most people there, but it was phenomenal to see him perform. He didn't slow down one bit. He was jumping around all over the stage, 38 years old, and you'd certainly never know the difference. Some of the other members of the band, however, I did see some of them close up, and they looked like they had been through a few rounds, but they put on.
Didn't look like they did in the 60s, huh?
Not exactly.
General admission tickets sold to a crowd of that capacity at a rock concert. There were concerns about it. Were there any problems?
I couldn't see any evidence of any problems. Security certainly said that this crowd was much more well-behaved than even the Stones' last appearance here. Why? I have no idea. They certainly were a mixed age group, and everyone behaved themselves, as I said.
Well, it's good news. Thank you very much, Susan. Well, the rain blew out just in time for the Stones concert yesterday, but meteorologist Eric Warren is with us now to talk about